All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. It is 6:32. It is April 28th. I hope everyone is feeling well and had a great weekend. My name is Scott Redler. I'm the Chief Strategic Officer of T3Live.com. I'm also the founder of Red Dog Mindset. Here, what we do is we try and go over the narratives of the week. What's the market overly focusing on? What's the keys to the day? How do we make money cash flow wise? How do we look ahead a little bit so we don't get caught with our, with our eyes closed? Not our eyes closed. What's a good word? And anyway, we don't want to fall asleep behind the wheel. Sometimes, you do that if you don't map out levels and you don't see where things get tough. And at this point, what a move, right? The last week or two, I feel like a lot of traders, at least traders that work with me from the Alpha team, or Redler All Access, had really good weeks. We focused on a lot of good names pre and post earnings. The levels have been working out, and here we are. If you remember last week at this time, we were really weak, and the market came down towards this 508. And it was hard to see that last week was going to come, but if you were flexible, you didn't have to. From the first kiss of this resistance area of 545, we came in pretty hard, made a higher low. Remember 481. This was also a good week, if you remember. Remember how he had the low, kind of like, and then he sold strength, and then that Wednesday when Trump came out midday and announced those the 90-day pause, a lot of things were looking good. We made good money there. Then all of a sudden, we just came too far, too fast, higher low, and now we penetrated a little bit on Friday, right into this zone. Now this zone's interesting. It's an interesting zone, right? You have a lot of earnings coming out this week, so many, and we're still kind of on our toes trying to figure out, is India going to get inked? Is Japan going to get inked? Is there going to be a real conversation, with Xi? It's hard to tell, but all I know is that, the dips have been viable last week. We had a gap up above this, what was this, 533. He could have been long versus that. A lot of names participated. So the way I would see this, which I would think would be awesome, not saying it's going to happen, we hold above this 543, which is Friday's low. Perhaps stocks act pretty well. We stay with some swings, and then all of a sudden, you get a deal or two, maybe decent, better than feared earnings, because we have a lot of earnings coming out, and one more move into this 200-day moving average, which is kind of close to like 562. If we see that on the way up, what I'll probably be doing is I'll be going out a few weeks and maybe buying puts, because I do think the reality of these tariffs are going to be, pretty tough. I do think the economy is slowing. I do think the Fed's not going to be that accommodative, and I do think that, the government's not spending what they were. So you put that all together, and it's a little bit of a slowdown. So anyway, you had a big move from the 481 lows. So I know I have 2 tiers of my blood in the street account working, which again, so that's from 17 transactions to 19. What I would do is I have to buy or sell on the close. So if we can get a strong close this week into the 560-ish area, I'm going to sell half just to have some flexibility, just to book it, and then still have about 75% in cash, just in case we come back down. Like, I'm not expecting this to continue and just go back to highs by the summertime like some people. For me, I feel like we're kind of lucky just to be back into here, but we'll see. So we'll see the way it works out. All in all, really good action. I know a lot of people in my community made a lot of money with Tesla last week. Tesla, I talked about it. I know that the earnings weren't great, but it was more about whether Elon would come back. And Elon said that he's going to be leaving Doge in May, or working 1 day a week. And then there's talk about a release in India. There's more talk about the robo-taxis and PS. Who cares about the talk? All I know is I said if we can get above 259, there's a move towards this 286 to 290 area. I'm still in the TSLL, which is actually an ETF that like doubles or triples Tesla. I don't even know. It was a little lazy. I was also in the stock. I made good money in the stock, but the TSLL is an ETF that actually this morning it's up 40 cents. So it's nice, up another 3%. Some guys did really well with options. Bottom line is people they want to make it like they're so smart with Tesla and Elon and Doge and this. I just like to go with the technicals. When Tesla's above the 8 and 21 day, I'm usually long. I like to be in this momentum. When it's not, I'm a little bit more tactical, and I've been very tactical with Tesla. And at this point, I would think this, what is this? This is like, what's a 100-day? Like 294-ish. So this was a nice move. And even with the market actually, what's it called, soft or a little lower, you have Tesla up an extra 5. So it's good to see a stock that goes out strong with super volume giving you some follow through. All you could ask for, in the market is rules that we have. Like I have a set of rules that I live by in the market, momentum rules. So you want to see the market follow them, and this is great. So I will trim and trail some TSLL. If you're in some Tesla, I would trim and trail and see what happens here into this 294-ish area. That should be some big resistance. That was great. Some guys did fantastic on Netflix. Last Monday, I talked to you guys on how you could, be long versus 998 or long versus 1032, or wait for momentum and buy through 1064. And look at this move. It's good to see a name like Netflix, above the 8 and 21 day, following the rules. What do? You don't short a stock above the 8 day. You try and be long it. And this had a big move all the way up to 1106. You didn't even have to be in it for earnings, which is the beautiful thing. You sometimes, like during earnings season, I'll take like 7 or 8 different earnings plays with different options, and 6 won't work, 2 will work and be triples, and it's really tricky to do. But bottom line is, post earnings, you could have been in, right, waited and then let it all set up here, and then it got above 1064, which, lately it's hard to find like pivots to buy for it to get through, and this one was a good one for Netflix. So 2 different type of plays. And then you had Google. I did take a call spread for Google, and thank goodness, I like to manage my things early. I was in Google. I was in what was my call spread? It was I took a 160 by 167.5. Okay, so what does that mean? It means I was risking, I don't even remember exactly what I was risking, but all I know is that it opened to 167. So what did I do on the open on Friday? I sold more 167.5 for $1, and then it pulled in. It just didn't feel right, so I sold the 160s. So I sold them for 5. I kept the 167s. It was a good trade. It wasn't a blockbuster trade. It was just a trade. And now people are like, well, what, everyone was saying the market's up on Friday because of Google. Meanwhile, Google did nothing, which is true. So now I would say, if you think Google is going to act better with their big buyback, their dividend, and etc., well, this is what you would do. Okay, you would say, I'm going to be long Google versus 161. So the 161 is right here. That is, just say your post earnings pivot. That is your defined risk. I might do it too. I might say, hey, you know what? I'm going to buy a little Google here, let it go sideways, and then maybe it starts acting better. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But there are different types of plays depending on how you're going to approach these things. And right now, Google itself is, it's up 4 cents at 162. So, you didn't have to play a huge, earnings play. You just had to, kind of do it the right way and be engaged, which is what we do every day. We get prepared. So we'll see. Anyway, so right now, let's go back real quickly. Someone's like, what does the SPYs need to hold? Well, the SPYs are only down 80 cents, which, if you look at the size of this move, it held 533, made a higher low, went all the way up above 548 to 551. It's down 80 cents. That's, I would say, pretty impressive considering there was really no deals, and, we have big earnings coming out. So all in all, things are acting pretty well still. The Qs had a nice move too. I would say you could go like this. The Qs, what's this low? This is 465.39. So, see what happens here. Does it digest above here, do a little bit of sideways action before maybe seeing another move? The Qs are important. And then, like, you have a lot of earnings this season, this week, not this season. So if you go here, okay, that's me. So let's click on here. So pick and choose what you want. I'm looking at this right now and just thinking about it. I don't know exactly what I want to do. All I know is that I know what's it called for Tuesday morning. Spotify is interesting. Spotify has been a super strong stock. The podcast, everyone's listening to podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. I don't really see anything that I want to play in here for today. Hey, Cadence, I miss you. SoFi is kind of interesting also. So I would think maybe for Tuesday, we want to think about SoFi and Spotify. Snap, I've donated so much money. I think I've lost 7 out of 9 Snap plays, but I guess I'll look at the chart. Who knows? And then Wednesday, have Meta, and Microsoft's been battered and bruised for a year and a half. Microsoft's kind of interesting. If they just said anything that was better than feared, maybe there's there's a lot of room in Microsoft. And Meta also has been beat up because of the monopoly and the advertising and this and that. So maybe we'll take a look. Sometimes it's good to buy a little bit prior. Like, so if you buy some options, if you want them, and it does like a little pre-earnings run between now and Wednesday, then you turn into a call spread to help finances it. Robinhood's been really strong. That'll be interesting. I have a feeling they're gonna have a really good quarter. And then on Thursday of Amazon and McDonald's. No, I'm not playing McDonald's. Roblox is acting a little bit better. So anyway, there's a lot of earnings here. I don't think I'm going to be as active on earnings as I've been, just because I just had a really good move myself into in the last 2-3 weeks where I'm back at the highs of my year, and they just to risk 5 to make 20 or risk 8 to make 40. It's just like, I don't know, just it hasn't been great. But anyway, someone said, so like you look at Amazon. Amazon was at 242. It really hasn't had that much of a bounce. But again, with tariffs and their goods, and it just rightly so. So there's a lot of resistance coming into here. So if you needed to play something, what's Amazon doing this morning? Amazon is, and this is for Thursday, Amazon is flat. You could do like a 190 by like 197.5 call spread if you think you're going to miss something. But I'm not so sure I'm going to do it. I'm just saying that's what, Amazon. And if you want to go to, like Meta, also look at that from 740 down. Where could it get to? This little 600 range is it looks pretty easy. So it's a 550. So if you wanted to do like a 570 by 590 call spread, just to have some kind of play there, it makes some sense. It's really coming a lot. So these are some things that I'm going to kind of be thinking about. I just don't have any of them on yet. Bitcoin, wow, what a move. I was telling you guys, if we get above 86, 87,000 Bitcoin, we're going to see 95,000. We did. Did you make money? Did you crush it? I hope you did. Anyway, let's see what some of my dogs are saying right here. Here we go. Sometimes I get some good nuggets out of my crew. Sorry for this kaleidoscope, but that's where I could see everyone talking. Good morning, Scott. Big dog up, Jim Nelson. Got Richard Judge in the house. ZB, great working with you. So you did the workout with me this morning from the 25-20. That's cool. Love it. Meta's on Wednesday. That's true. Grok is competition for Google. Both great, but Grok is getting funding. Okay. Well, Google already reported. Chase can really ball. Great highlight reel. Yeah. Chase had a great weekend. He played this weekend. He plays for the New Jersey Beast. And he hit 5 threes in a row with 3 minutes left to pull us within 3 points against the number 4 team in the country. It's pretty cool for him. I was happy. He works. Anyway, good morning, Blair. Good morning, Tony. We got Suzuki. Thoughts on Mr. Mr. just had a big move with crypto, so might need to digest a little bit. And AMC needs to say, not AMC, GME needs to say something for it to get some action there. What am I focused on? Well, first, if you want to see what IBIT looks like, IBIT had a big move. We were focused on it in here. That was awesome. Went as high as what? Went as high as 54.54. So let's put that in there, 54.54. Where could it get to? I guess it can get towards my first. By the way, my target for this was 53-ish, and it got there. And now I would say, this 56-ish is a big resistance area, which is I think like 98,000 in Bitcoin. But anyway, so what a move though. This is where you have to focus on it though. This is where you have to be buying the IBIT $50 calls, $51 calls, and make a massive move. I think a lot of us did, and now it's in a nice little trend there. Mr. Also, you should have been focusing on it in here. Above the moving average is getting tight, and now what could it get to? I think it can get towards 398. So in my mind, if IBIT is going to get to 56.20, I think Mr. has room towards 398. So you want to like kind of put things into groups and zones, right? Palantir seems anointed. Yes. MLD, I've been in Palantir. Palantir was one of my best trades last week and a great power play. Look at that move. But again, there's a time to hyper focus on it, which was right in here. And then you could have bought it when it cleared 97.83. And now it's like you have to just manage the trade. What's it doing this morning? Somebody just asked. Let's see. It's up a whole 8 cents. It just had a big move. It went to this void. So I think a lot of people made a lot of money in the last week or two. And congratulations if you did. I know, I was in a bit of a rut like 3 weeks ago. And I feel like in the last 3 weeks, the sequence was so special since hitting the low 481 with a lot of tradable moves. I'm almost to the highest of my year. And I'm feeling good. A lot of guys just worked themselves out of a big hole, and now they know they could do it. So they built some self-esteem, some confidence. I've done it a bunch of times. I've been doing this since 1998. So, for me, this was not a big hole. It was just like, it was down a bunch. So I wasn't worried. I never get worried. You loving ZS? Yeah, a lot of people talking about the ZS. Look at this chart. Wow, of course they should be talking. Look how tight this is going sideways. I know it just had a nice 2-day move, but, this is a pretty big area right here for it to get above. What's it doing this morning, ZS? It's up 2 at 217.74. Yeah, so I don't play this stock a lot, so I'm not in it, but you definitely could be in this thing. Looks like there's room maybe to fill this gap. This gap goes all the way across. When does it have report earnings? This is March 6th, so it already reported. So this is May 29th, so it's got some time to just trade the price action. It looks good. Yeah, and Uber, I haven't really been trading Uber. Sloppy, I just haven't really been trading it. Looks like it, opened up and came in a little bit, had a nice move. Uber. What's it doing this morning? What's Uber doing this morning? UBR, that's down 17 cents. There's a lot of things working. If you don't just hyper focus on the administration and what Trump's doing and what he's saying and this and that, it's been a lot of, but you need to know what the buzzwords are out there. There's been a lot of money to be made. IBA HIMS earnings May 5th. A lot of people talking about HIMS. Yeah, this has been battered. Actually, it's a nice little chart right here. It's down here doing a whole lot of nothing. What'd you say? This is earnings when? May 5th. What's today, April 28th? This is the type of thing that might have like a pre-earnings run. Like if you wanted to, buy options, like do a 30, buy options, and then it runs up a bunch, then you sell like the 35s and put on a call spread. This looks pretty good. I don't really, I've heard about this a bunch of times. A lot of guys in the Alpha team played this, for a nice move when it happened in February, and now it's kind of rebuilt. Where could it get to? It's got some room to about, this 31 area. I might take a look at it. Interesting. Very interesting. That's why I like to have my crew. I have, you guys over here. A lot of you guys from, by the way, 630 Club are members of the Alpha team. You guys just want to get the 630 feel before I do the morning call for Alpha team at 8:15. So a little pre-Red Dog, which is cool. And then those who want a feel before then, they do a workout with me at Red Dog Mindset at the 2520. So we're doing a lot pre-market. That's why I say win the morning, win the day. The better you feel, the more prepared, the better state you are, the better you could execute with some confidence out there. GLD, I'm in some puts. I think this GLD, it's going to get down towards the 21 day, which is now the 295-ish. Won't be a blockbuster trade. I'm not calling a top or the gold's over. I just kind of think that we made a really good trade up here. That was a really good reversal trade. That was like it was going parabolic. Everyone in the world was like so, enamored with it. I'm like, now it's time to, take some out if you could. And then you had the outside day, made money, covered into here. I rolled them into the 300s for this week. And now we'll see what happens. GLD, it's not down a whole ton here. It's down $1.35. If it just holds here and goes sideways, it might just turn into a big channel up here now. So you could go sideways like this or not. At this point, I would love to see it, hang here a little bit and then work towards 295 and make some extra money there. That would be nice. It'd be nice, but we'll see. Anyway, it's not like an over focus. It's just something that, you have to keep an eye on because it was such a great asset this year. A lot of my guys we were hyper focused on it down here while the world wasn't really even looking at it, and made some really good money. I think I got off at around 257 just because, I just did. Sometimes it depends on my mood, where I want to go, where I want to live, what I want to trade, what I want to do, and then up here, I think we caught the top really well. And now we'll see, does it hold here? And, if the market makes one more push, maybe this makes one more push down, and then you can make some money there and figure out how you want to get back in. So yeah, kind of, let's see what everyone else is saying here. Love Hymns, 33% short, 76% institutional ownership, earnings May 8th. All right, you know what? You sold me. I might buy some options today. Okay, what would I buy? I'd buy the $30 calls. What's it doing this morning? Let's see. HIMS. It's up 74 cents at 28.80. Yeah, so this would be a spot, and then this will be another spot. That's, so if you want to do like a 30 by 35 call spread, probably won't cost you much. Gold inverse to big, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, well, when Bitcoin started to work, gold started to come down, vice versa. You want to see the chart of Bitcoin? Let's see the chart of Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is hanging in there. Wow, just kind of turned up a little bit. Look at that. Another little bull flag right here holding the 8-day. We love when it holds the 8-day, going sideways. Looks like it's on its way to 99K, in my opinion. This is when I was hyper focused on it. This is when I had it as a power play for IBIT and IBIT calls. Made a lot of money there. Now it looks like a nice bull flag, getting ready for what could be an additional move. This is true. Where could it get to? This is 99K. Not so bad. Everyone keeps saying GME's, it's not great, but it's hanging in here. If you're long GME, just be long GME versus, 25-ish. And if it gets above 28 and a quarter, and they announce that they were buying a lot of Bitcoin, which they probably were when Bitcoin was lower, maybe it stimulates an exciting move. If anything, it's just the thing doesn't trade well. Maybe just go out and buy some $29 calls, because if it gets above 29 on some kind of news that how much Bitcoin they've been buying and how much they just made for the first time in a while, maybe you get that move. Anyway, what else? Apple, I'm not really that interested in Apple. It's had a nice move. It's good to know what Apple's doing for the indices. I do play the indices at times. There's some room here towards, I guess this is the 50-day. Apple's coming out on what day? Apple is May 1st. So you got some time if it wants to get up towards, what is this, 212.94? That's 212.94. 212.94. That's your next resistance. So it's been really good being prepared. It's been really good mapping out areas, support. It's been really, good knowing what we're all looking at out there as far as, what could spur a move. I think if we heard that India is inked, maybe that helps the market a little bit. If we heard that Japan was inked, which neither of them are, so it's still out there. There's still some rhetoric on whether or not Trump spoke to Xi. There was some news on Friday which caused the spies to go 5 points that China actually was speaking with the administration, but then they came out and said they aren't. So there's a lot of back and forth. So when that's the case, make sure you're not doing things in no man's land. If you're shorting too early, you're getting screwed. If you buy too early, it's hard to stay with it. Know what's coming out this week. Know what you own. Know why you own, and know what time frame you're approaching this tape. I've shown you all my different time frames. I can't get into it right now, and it's right now 6:56. And it's time for me to do my 40 charts for the Alpha team. We have an open house next week. You should sign up. And we'll see what goes on. Spies could definitely use a day off. We'll see. 543-ish needs to hold. If it holds above that, even better. Spies right now are, what are the spies doing? The spies are, coming off a little bit down at $1.79. If you want to look at the daily chart of the spies, you'll see where we came from in the afternoon. So you go back to here. This is your intraday. So literally, it's right here. So at 2 o'clock, we were at 546. I would think if the market wants to really keep momentum strong, that it doesn't really get much below here in the first part of the morning. That would be a retest of where we broke out from around 12 o'clock on Friday, came back and held, and this would be a good spot. If it gets below this spot, maybe it gets a little looser and wider in the spies, and you got to figure out, you want to be not as fast on buying a dip. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We got a very busy week. I'm going to be fasting today till 2 o'clock tomorrow. If you're fasting with me, cool stuff. I'm allowed to drink iced coffee and water, and I could have a creatine gummy. Anyway, besides that, you know what? Stick to your plan. Work your first. What do they say? First, you make your habits, then your habits make you, right? Little micro habits. And if you don't like your habits, you got to change them a little bit. If you want changes, you got to make changes. And I don't know. I'll see you on the other side. Later, my dogs.